warm welcome to Jyotishi Devi ji and all friends and guides who have gathered today in this special moment. We are not saying morning or evening because in Dwapara the boundaries of time and space are collapsing and we just want to feel united. Thank you, Jyotishi Devi ji, for being with us, for blessing us with your presence and with your wisdom and light. We all wait for these in conversation moments where we discuss various topics that are pertinent to discipleship, pertinent to spiritual seekers. Nobody here, I'm sure, is not aware of who Jyotishi Devi ji are, our guiding lights of our lineage of masters, of Swamiji. Just guiding our hearts, our consciousness, and living the teachings and embodying the vibration of the Guru, being the voice of the Guru for all of us. It's really a moment of tuning in to the Masters when we speak with you, when we hear from you. It's deepening attunement for us. Today we have a discussion dedicated to this topic, which is discipleship as a dynamic channel of the light. We live in interesting times where in the news we have various, I don't know if I should say alarming or off-centering, but news of various natural, political, social episodes happening and Master's words that stand unshaken in the crash of breaking worlds. Master's reminder to carry the portable paradise within through meditation. These are reminders that we hold close to our hearts in these times. So our discussion today will be dedicated to becoming more aware of, as yogis, how we should be, how we should approach these times, how we should embrace these times, and what's our role in it. Welcome to you both again. I'm Gurupriya, and with me is...
I'm Alok, and we welcome both of you on behalf of Ananda Kolkata and everyone present here. And
Thank you. We're very, very happy to be here. You know, we're really Indian souls in Western bodies. And so we're fortunate in the fact that we get to spend several months every year in India. That refreshes and renews us. But in fact, we're not really residents of any single place. I would say we're residents of Ananda, and Ananda is spread all over the world. So really what Ananda represents is a certain vibration, the vibration of discipleship, the vibration of spiritual seeking, and that's our true home. And so wherever we happen to find ourselves, right now we're sitting in our living room in California at Ananda Village. So all of you are joining us in our living room. It gets a little crowded here with several hundred people, but nonetheless, it works out.
And I also want to say how happy we are on a very deep level to be with our dear friends Gurupriya and Alok, and then all of you who are joining us tonight. And we also, many people keep in touch with with us, with what's going on in India. And we just want to say how pleased Master must be the wonderful program you put on for his birthday in Kolkata. We were so wanting to be there, just amazing. I don't think I've ever seen any event quite like that, even at a distance. And then the wonderful book fair that our staffs put on in Pune and Delhi, and the new centers that are coming up, and the developing the monastery in Chandigarh. So I think Master must be so pleased to see his teachings taking deep root. And he was an international, well, he was more than international. He was probably galactic citizen, and but nevertheless, he came to the world to, at a particular time, and picking up on what Guru Priya said, yes, it's a time of tremendous change, and the potential for global unrest is great. But that's why Master came, and that's why he called all of us to him at this time. So, having said that, we can begin more having a conversation, but it's a very, very important topic that you've chosen for tonight, and just how our discipleship helps us to be channels for the light. Because one of the great things Master brought, particularly to the West, in India, the tradition is vibrant of the guru disciple relationship, but in the West, it's not. And yet, he came, and his magnetism and his spiritual radiance drew tens of thousands of disciples, even though there was no tradition of a guru disciple relationship, but he lived it, and he awakened that within the West. And of course, in India, the culture is very blessed to have that understanding. In fact, the very first sentence of Autobiography of a Yogi is the characteristic features of the Indian culture have long been: one, the search for ultimate verities, for truth, and the concomitant, the associated disciple-guru relationship. And so the search for truth and the guru-disciple relationship are very closely linked. And that's what the world needs now so much. What is truth? What is real? Not what we see all around us. So having said all that, let's start a conversation, and you can ask us things, and we'll
Well, let's start with a prayer.
Okay, good.
So
Thank you.
I'll lead us in a prayer and just repeat mentally because of the time lag. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, beloved Guruji, Paramahansa Yogananda, great saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Beloved Master, beloved Swamiji, we offer ourselves, we open ourselves to receive thy light, thy grace, thy joy, and we offer ourselves as channels to share that great vibration with everyone we meet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Well, maybe I'll also add a couple of thoughts on the theme itself of discipleship and how that allows us to be a channel for the light. You know, there are two ways to approach discipleship, but it really goes deeper than that. There are two ways to approach life itself. One is to think of things as being exterior to us, and our senses, the very way that God has created this world, makes us think in terms of things outside of ourselves. So, in one sense, our discipleship is outward to a figure, to a guru, to a spiritual tradition, even. But in a deeper sense, Master pointed out again and again that the only real way to be able to cope with the changes and the trials that come in one's life is more and more to realize that everything outside of us is nothing but a dream. And the only reality is consciousness and our consciousness. And so yes, we do need to have a relationship with a guru, master, Swamiji. It is helpful to have a relationship with a spiritual tradition, but it is also a deeper truth that none of those things lie outside of ourselves. The real discipleship is with our own higher self, the God within us, and that God within us has manifested in multiple forms, one of which, and the most important on the spiritual path, being the guru that guides us back, as Master was saying, the concomitant disciple guru relationship that guides us back to truth. And so, yes, the guru is outside of ourselves, but also the guru is right here at the Kutastha. And it's really there that the deeper relationship with the guru is formed. And so if we can strengthen that within ourselves, if we can connect to that more deeply, this is not only, of course, the center for the guru, but it's the center for the divine light within the body. It's the center for the spiritual eye. And so if we can connect with the light within us, with the guru within us, then that's the true discipleship. Whether it's in words or not in words, it's that bonding that's formed. Then when we act outwardly, we act as channels of that light. And we ourselves don't have really any light to bring. I've been meditating on the image in the last few weeks of what our real role is. And because obviously we do want to serve the guru, we do want to be channels for the light, but we're really like a irrigation system, that the light flows, or an irrigation system, the water flows through the irrigation system, but the irrigation system neither creates the water nor does it use very much of the water. And if the irrigation system becomes proud of its role, it misses the whole point. And if an irrigation system that becomes proud of its role, then it's as if it becomes encrusted inside, and no water flows, and the guru goes on to another one. But we should be very willing to serve the guru, and if we're willing servants, then the guru will take care of us, just as a farmer takes care of the irrigation systems. And if he wants to move us here or move us there, let's just be happy with all of that. But the less we think of ourselves, the more purely we can channel whatever light the guru is trying to project through us.
I'll just add a few more things, and then we'll begin our conversation. You know, I think it's on everyone's mind, the point that Gurupriya raised at the beginning of living in turbulent times and standing unshaken. But I've been thinking a lot about Master coming to the world at this time and our whole line of gurus. You know, Swami did some very interesting, he wrote some very interesting essays about the yugas, the cycles of time. And right now, well, you know, we're exiting Kali Yuga, and then there's a 200-year sandhya or bridge from Kali Yuga to Dwapara Yuga. That's roughly 1700 to 1900. And the 1900 was the beginning of Dwapara Yuga proper. But very, very interesting. And I've been reading a lot about what Swami said about this. And he said, I found in an essay, that he believes Christ appeared to Babaji in the Himalayas saying, we need to send what has happened to my religion. He said it was about 1860. Interesting. And then, 1893, Master was born. 1894, Lahiri Mahashaya told his disciple Sri Yukteswar, go to the Kumbh Mela. He goes in 1894, and who should he meet but Babaji? Babaji told him two things. One, write a book about comparing the similarities between the teachings of Christ and the teachings of the Indian masters. And I will send you second thing, I will just send you a disciple in the future who will share these teachings with the West. And so then Lahiri Mahashaya was drawn up to the Himalayas during this bridge also, and between the two yugas. And then Master came to the West, began the mission, the world mission, 1920. So into Dwapara Yuga. So it's almost as though our whole line of gurus, Christ, Babaji, Lahiri, Sri Yukteswar, and Master, they all were active in that bridge between Kali Yuga and Dwapara. And then when Dwapara Yuga started, Master came to the West and began teaching. But it's not random. We need to understand that these events happened at this time, because the more you read about the yugas, the more you can see that the period, the transition between Kali Yuga, the age of form and rigid dogma and so forth, divisions, and the age of energy of Dwapara, it's one of the most chaotic transitions of all the yugas. Very interesting. And our masters came at this time to give us the tools that we need, meditation, Kriya Yoga, discipleship, the tools that we need to be centered in ourselves, but they also gave us their grace and blessings and strength and spiritual power to carry on during these times. So it's very, very interesting to step back and analyze Master's mission and the mission of our line of gurus in this context of why did they come now and why are we here now? So having said all that, let's
Well, I'll just add one small thought pertinent to the discussion tonight. But we're in a very chaotic period right now. But if you look at that longer period of the bridge where our masters were active in making this changeover, you could pick little areas in that time. For instance, the 1860s were the time of the Civil War in America. Very, very turbulent time. So if you pick that little time and you think, oh, this is such a terrible age and nothing is going to happen, and will the world even survive? And all of these thoughts rush in. But if you get a longer view and see what is happening in longer term rhythms, then the Civil War was necessary for some changes of consciousness that had to happen. And so I think if we view our current times in a longer term rhythm, we can have less of a sense that the world is crashing around us and more of a sense that maybe God and gurus actually do know what they're doing in guiding this world spiritually and through its processes. So now let's have some conversation.
Oh, wait, I remember it. Okay, no, please, Gurupriya and Alok, come join us.
Thank you for just setting the tone for such an interesting, and I think we are all wanting to gather these insights very much for the times we live in. The first question is, as we spoke about going deeper into Dwapara and these various incidents that are happening, and as you rightly mentioned, that the gurus are setting the stage of sorts at the back to prepare the world for more and more souls to be awakened to come to their full spiritual potential, which is probably possible only in this time, in this challenging time. So coming back to the individual life and the individual self, when we see these unrests, we can normally get into two modes of response. One is withdrawing into a spiritual cocoon, which is just meditating, almost being in denial of what's happening in the world. And the other can be if we are somehow caught up in what's happening, we can get into modes of panic and fear. But my question is, there is a role that each one has spiritually to being a receiver of light, to being a giver of light in some way, to spiritually help others with what we receive. How do we prepare ourselves in this time for the times to come, to respond to situations in the dharma, in the right way, in how we are meant to? How do we prepare?
Okay, that's a very perceptive question. Either withdrawing into a spiritual life and divorcing yourself from the world, or being fearful of what's happening in the world, either one of those strategies, one might say, distances yourself from what's going on, but more importantly, it distances yourself from the spiritual opportunity that we have right now. For a devotee, this chaotic age is the golden age. It's the time that we're going to be able to make the most spiritual progress. And it's done by a combination both of withdrawal into the discipleship, into attunement with the guru, but it's also done not by being fearful and withdrawing from the world, but being, excuse me, a channel of light, for a channel to bring the light to the guru. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it says that for the worldly man, the night for the worldly man is day for the yogi, and day for the yogi is night for the worldly man. And what that really means is that for us, the time that is difficult for people who, let's say, are attached too attached to what they have, their possessions, their whatever it is, they're attached to the things of this world. These chaotic times, why are they fearful? Because they threaten that they're going to take away that which we're depending on outwardly. And the more a person is caught up in that mentality, the more threatening this time comes. But for the yogi, the real yogi, who is trying to release himself from the delusion that his happiness lies outside himself, the threat of having those things taken away is actually helpful for us. And so it helps us detach. It helps us realize on a deeper and deeper level that this world is never going to fulfill us, and only our relationship with God is going to fulfill us. But also it takes away the fear, and it allows us to embrace these times, because there are so many people who need help during turbulent times. And so for us, if we can act in attunement with the guru, and try to help do whatever we can in whatever circumstances we find ourselves, to bring light into the world, then for us, these times are a golden spiritual opportunity.
Thank you, Jyotish. And there's a saying that all of Krishna's soldiers look like Krishna. And we are master soldiers. And his mission was not one of world denial or withdrawing. In fact, we were just reading something he wrote in an article, and he said something I'd never seen before, and it kind of surprised me. He said, so many of the teachings of yogis say, don't become attached, be detached from everything, and don't be attached to anyone. So Master said, I tell you, you should be attached. Be attached to the people that your friends, your family, but be attached not to the form, but to the God in them. And that if you're attached to the God in them, that'll take you to God. And so Master's way, he came, his world mission, why didn't he just stay in India? His world mission was to uplift consciousness everywhere, but to show how to the kind of more material minded Westerners, to show how they could and can, not past but present, how they can live their daily life, but make it God centric. That's what Lahiri Mahashaya did. He look at, amazing what that man with that great avatar did. And so just to understand that Master's mission was to show how to deal with life's challenges in practical ways. But as Sri Yukteswar said, keep your feet on the ground, but keep your head in the clouds with God. And so that's what our discipleship is really about. We're Master's foot soldiers, and he came to change the consciousness, help mold the consciousness of Dwapara Yuga, past all the chaos and the tension of the old and the new, and just to show a vision of the future where people's daily lives were enhanced by God consciousness.
That was very beautifully shared, Jyotish Devi, very insightful and something especially for all disciples on this path to think upon. How can we act more as channels of that light? But I was thinking as you were sharing that, of course, we all want to share more and more light with others. We want to serve as that instrument. But then how much can we do and what is the extent, in the sense that, of course, like Babaji said to Master, that you would be protected, when Master was having that thought when he went to America. And but then very interestingly, later on, when Swamiji put the comment onto it, that you being protected doesn't mean that you would not die in that sense. And so then, as being channels of this light, how much should we push ourselves forward? And of course, the Guru's protection is there, but how do we know what is our dharma and what are we to do in these, especially these challenging, these dynamic situations?
Yes, that's again a very perceptive question, Alok. The best way to know is twofold. One is to meditate deeply, because these answers really come more intuitively than they do logically. So the deeper our meditation and the more self-offering we have in meditation, the more we will be guided. Master, in fact, has said that if our consciousness is high enough, then we're unable to act out of attunement. And so the first thing that we have to do is try to do those practices that help raise our consciousness and keep our consciousness raised. The second thing that we should do is to try during our daily activities to try to see it more as God, a play of God. Try to see those that we're working with, those that we're interacting with, as forms of God. And if we do that, then our interactions with them will be more held in a spiritual way. And if we can hold on to that consciousness of being a channel to other forms of God, then automatically the light will flow through us. Swami even gave the technique. He said that when we're talking with someone, we should feel that we're connected from our spiritual eye to their spiritual eye. And so that when we talk, we feel that there's a flow of energy from our spiritual eye to their spiritual eye. And when we listen, we should feel there's a connection. between our heart and their heart. And so that the projection is from here, the reception is from the heart. It's a basic spiritual teaching that we use in meditation. We pray to God and then we feel in the heart. But Swami has taken it from what might seem to be philosophical to a very practical technique of how we can tune in better and relate better and influence better the people in our lives.
Yes, and there isn't just one way to bring light into the world. You might think, oh, well, I'm not a teacher or, a leader or anything. If we, every day in our meditation, if we devotionally, when we feel centered and calm within, to just ask God, use me in whatever way you can use me. And it we don't know how lives are changed. Just in fact, yesterday Jyotish and I had to go into the local town to Ananda Village, Nevada City, and we were parking. We had some business to attend to. We were parking, and I noticed there was the car right next to us had the hood up, and there was a very old man kind of fumbling around inside the car. And then I walked up to, I just felt he looked like a nice man. He looked like he could use some energy. And I walked up and I saw the front of the car was kind of smashed in. I said, oh, did you have an accident? And he said, yes. Very sweet man. He said, yes, but fortunately, no one was hurt. My wife and I were in the front seat and nobody was hurt. And I said, well, good luck with everything. And he just looked up at me and he said, God bless you. I don't know who this man was. I'll unlikely ever see him again. But it was just a beautiful moment of sharing light. So it doesn't have to be, yes, we have our kind of prescribed dharma of maybe work or family or whatever it may be, our service. But it's such a joy to be open to however God wants to use you. And it's not us. It's not, it's just the light. And the more we can be centered in the light, and then the more we can share that light. And, one thing, I'll just share this and then we can go on. It's very, very important to watch your thoughts and your attitudes. Watch for negativity because it's easy to, when the world around us is crazy, to judge people, to criticize, oh, those people are wrong, they're terrible, look what they're doing. Just watch your thoughts. That doesn't help you, it doesn't help the world. Positive, blessed thoughts about the world and about the people in it, it maintains the light. And one time someone asked Swamiji, what is Ananda's role? And he said different things at different times depending on what was appropriate. But one time he said, Ananda's role is to equalize the world on the spiritual plane. So there's all the forces of darkness and materialism and divisiveness and violence, all those things. We can't stop those people from doing what they do, but we can live in the light and let our thoughts only reflect that light, only reflect the attitudes that Guru would want us to have. So it's just very, very important. It's not being a channel for the light. I think really the most important way to do it is anonymously, silently, unnoticed. And that's a very pure way to do it.
Just because we don't agree with someone or agree with a policy doesn't mean that we shouldn't send light to the soul and the energy behind it. Because being angry just adds to the darkness. Sending light adds to the light. It's really just that simple.
Yeah. And we also need to appreciate our own effectiveness, our own spiritual effectiveness as human beings. I'll just tell this story briefly. Many years ago, we led a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, And we went one day, the guide took us out into the desert to a place called Megiddo, where there had been archaeologists discovered 7 successive civilizations. One came and went, another. And according to the New Testament, this place in the desert will be the site of the beginning of Armageddon. Whether this is true or not, I don't know. But we stood there were 33 of us on this trip, and we stood there in the desert. Nothing else was around, holding hands, and we were chanting Om for world peace. And it was very interesting because in my mind's eye, I could perceive that there were 2 huge beings, like angelic, demonic beings, one of light and one of darkness, and they were trying to gain dominance over the other one. And when we chanted Om for world peace and sent out light, the being of light was strengthened. And so there are beings which oversee the what goes on, the events in this world, but don't underestimate simply praying and sending light, the impact this can have beyond our own lives. So now we'll move on to the next question.
Thank you for these reminders, because as you said, the prescribed dharma and the subtle dharma, which is quiet and which is every moment, and being in attunement and doing Guru's will in little things, being a channel. So, when we hear the word Kumbh Mela right now, everyone's hearts are sort of stirred. Right now, the situation is such in Kolkata, in India, and we can't help bring it up. A staggering number of people, 40 crore people expected to gather for this holy dip. In a sense, the real purpose of such a holy dip is to attain moksha, is to attain liberation. So it makes one think that what a great spiritual thirst there is, maybe at a known or at an unknown or semi-known way in every soul, to aspire spiritually, to baptize oneself spiritually. Just as, as Kriya yogis, I know many Guru Bhais are visiting, experiencing that, and some feel that the holy dip is in meditation, is in Kriya. So there is this deliberation. Is there a real need to go there? So if you want to share any feelings around that, and also this association of going to the Kumbh Mela is about meeting the saints. Maybe it's also a reflection of finding your guru, that many souls maybe are seeking their guru. So in this age of, Zoom and drones and artificial intelligence, do we need to find the guru at a Kumbh Mela, or is there a guru to be found in a subtle way for the spiritual seeker?
Well, first of all, let me say, I think the Kumbh Mela is a wonderful event. What other place on earth, what other emotion is there where there's so much energy devoted to trying to make some spiritual connection? The very act, people who go to the Kumbh Mela, it is costly, it takes time, it takes energy, and even if they're thinking that it's all something outside of themselves, nonetheless, the direction is spiritual. I myself went to the Kumbh Mela in 1974 in Hardwar with Swamiji, and a small group of us were there. And he met a very beautiful saint at that time, and we had a very nice time, but we didn't spend too much time outwardly. So the real dip that we take is symbolic. The outward dip cleanses the body, But if you think that you're the body, then the outward dip cleanses that. But Swami told a story about a saint watching someone bathe in the Ganges, and he said, "Oh, I'm washing away all my sins." And the saint laughed. He said, "The sins sit in the tree and watch you bathe, and as soon as you come out of the Ganges, they jump on you again." And so the outward act, at least it's directionally wanting to cleanse yourself. But the Ganges, the deeper Ganges, is the flow of energy in the Sushumna. And so the deeper bathing is done through the act of Kriya Yoga, is done in the spine. But nonetheless, combining the outer and the inner has more power. Master, there's a beautiful section in the autobiography of a yogi where uh, you'll remember if I remind, Master's sister was very upset because her husband was mocking her desire, her spiritual desires. And she came and pleaded with Master, "Can you do something to help change him?" But the interesting thing is, he said, "Let us go to the temple at Dakshineshwar, the Ramakrishna temple." Said, "Let us go there, because in that holy environment, it will be easier to influence his thoughts. So let us go to the Kumbh Mela, because in that holy environment, it will be easier to uplift our thoughts. But let us remember also that the bathing in the Ganges is symbolic of the true bathing in the Sushumna and in the divine light that flows within us."
I don't have much to add, just to say it's thrilling for the rest of the world to watch that 40 million people in any one nation can go and say, I want to find God. I want to meet my guru. I mean, what an impact does that have on the rest of the world? So it's a blessing to the whole world.
Thank you so much. I'm sure that would have been very insightful to many people, and there are quite a few, I'm sure, who have joined, have already attended, but many still contemplating. And so, yeah, that's a very good piece of advice. There's this another thought which you both have already were sharing initially and in the last few questions, that as we open up ourselves more, and the guru can flow through us as we become their channels. But the ego is such that there is that thought when we see even others that okay, I mean, we have all these saints who have come up before, or all even our senior acharyas or Nayaswamis, they are spreading out this light so much, and probably that's enough, and maybe I'll just be around and try to develop myself and wait till I become a saint and then share this light. We at moments do lack that confidence or courage to act out because we might think we are still not developed enough or grown enough. And but again, as you share that we should strive to be that channel at any point, how to bridge that gap, how to overcome that thought.
Well, we should always try, no matter what our station in life is, we have a little area around us that we influence. And so, whatever the area that we're given to work with, we should try to share light with that. And the more we think about ourselves, the less ability we have to share that light. There's a beautiful story, a parable. There were these two pots, and a woman went every day to the well and got water in these two pots and had a yoke, and she carried it back from the well to the house so that they had water for their household tasks. And one of the pots was new and beautifully painted, and the other pot was old and a little bit cracked. And the new pot, the pretty pot, was very proud and mocked the the cracked pot, the old one. And so the old one felt very bad about itself. And one day kind of was feeling very depressed. And the woman noticed this and she said to the two pots, "Let me show you something." She said, "Every day I've walked to the well and I walk back. And let's walk along that path and see what the path looks like on the two sides, because I always carry the new pot on the right-hand side and the old pot on the left-hand side." And so they walked back and she pointed out, "Now look at the right-hand side where the new pot is. Nothing is growing there. There's no beauty. There's no flowers. And let's look at the other side, because that cracked pot shared the water as it went along. There are beautiful flowers growing all along the pathway." And so we may think that humility is somehow a block, or being shy, or thinking that we don't have much to share. But if we allow the guru, who's the water, to flow through us to whatever little degree that we have, beauty will spring up around us.
And one of the great joys and blessings and challenges of being trained by Swami Kriyananda is he always pushed us beyond what we thought we were capable of doing. Once, you may have heard us tell this story, but Haridas, who was in Bangalore, Haridas in Roma for many years, now he's here at the Nanda Village. He was very new. He was like 18 years old. He had lived in Los Angeles and he came to Ananda Village. Swami was scheduled to do some programs in Los Angeles, and he asked Hari, because he was from there, could you set up some interviews, radio interviews, television, whatever you can get. So Hari went down, and he was being Haridas, a very sweet and engaging person, and he was able to make contact with the man who had the largest, was it TV or radio?
TV. It was Los Angeles This Morning.
Yeah.
It was the biggest morning show on television of the time.
And so he asked the man, he was saying, well, this are my teacher, Swami Kriyananda, is coming, and would you be interested? And then they talked and talked. And finally, this man said, you know, I don't want that Swami Kriyananda. I want you on my show. And Haridas was horrified. He'd never taught, he'd never done anything public. And he came back to Swamiji. And what do you think Swamiji said? I mean, I love it. He said, well, if the man wants you on the show, then you should be on the show. And Haridas, he did. And he did the best he could. And I'm sure it was wonderful. But it's so important to and look, he did the same thing with Jyotish and me. We could tell you many, many stories about he pushed us into the deep end of the pool, so to speak. And I look back and, some of those things happened 35, 40 years ago or more. And I think you were just new on the path. What did you know? And yet, the important thing to remember, it is our blessing to share Master's vibration and his teachings with whoever we can. It's not that we're important or we even know what we're talking about, but just from my own experience, I can see every time I have tried to share Master's teachings to the best of my ability, be it with one other person or with a group, in a class, in a satsang, it's been my blessing, because when you say, Master, I want to be your channel, he uses you.
Yeah, uses you in ways that you may not even know it. In fact, there was a sweet story. Haridas, when he was on that program, he was wearing one of the bangles like this, the copper, silver, and gold bangle. And the interviewer, this very popular TV personality, asked him, what is that bracelet that you're wearing? And Haridas, he wasn't new
He went
on the
blank.
path.
Yeah.
He went blank. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to describe the values of it and so on. And he just said, well, I wear it because it makes me think of God. And when Swami heard that, he said, that's the perfect answer. If you had tried to go into the whole philosophical and astrological aspects of why to wear a bangle, it wouldn't have been you. Just so the real takeaway from this is just be yourself and God will flow through you in the appropriate way.
And use you. And just like when Master was on the ship, the city of Sparta, coming en route to America in 1920, he was asked to give a talk on board that ship. And in fact, we found a photo of him in an old online source of him giving that talk on the city of Sparta. But he, we all know the story. It's an autobiography of a yogi where he gets up there and he freezes and he can't, English just won't come to him. And he stands there for 10 minutes and finally the audience starts laughing. And then he just prays to Sri Yukteswar, his guru, who sent him to the West. And he hears Sri Yukteswar's voice saying, "You can speak." And then he's had a 45-minute talk in fluid English. And he said afterwards, he asked people, he said, I didn't even remember what I said. And I asked people, what did I say? And they told him, they said, you gave a dynamic talk in flawless English for 45 minutes. And God was just using him. And so that's but you have to start with your own personal practice of meditation, because that's where we learn to offer the ego to the higher self, to the guru. And then when we come in service, that's a continuation of our sadhana.
Absolutely. And you have actually touched upon the practice of inner communion in meditation that we take into, outer service. And I'm sure everyone that's serving here have felt resonance in Haridas ji's feelings in those particular moments when he was facing those questions. Um, um, the next question, maybe the final question here is that Swamiji's legacy lives in both of you, in whatever you are doing, whatever you're birthing, whatever you're perpetuating. We know that, we read your blogs and they're also published as books. Before I ask the question, I want to share with everyone a line from Devi ji and one from Jyotish ji from the book Touch of Inner Power. And I'll read Devi ji's words first. Seeking the one heart that beats in all breasts. Receive God's unconditional love, share it with others as fully as you're able, and live the teachings in these ways. The power of divine love will expand out from you and me to reach many. Eventually, it can uplift the consciousness of the whole world. Deviji signs off in one of our notes with that. And Jyotishi writes, I'm making a pledge to do my best to act throughout each day with peace and harmony and to strongly radiate those vibrations to the whole planet. Will you join me? Yes, we of course will. We have joined you. Share with us, we know you have been in seclusion and you have been writing, and we feel yourself offering more and more in different expressions, in teachings, in talks, in retreats that you're leading, in the books that you're writing. How deeply is Swamiji's presence guiding you? How are you tuning into that presence of Swamiji in the steps that you take, and how he is inspiring, encouraging, and validating everything that you are doing?
Well, perhaps I'll begin. There's an outward aspect to it, which, we continually probably daily, read something from Master, read something from Swamiji, and we try to tune in to not only the words, but the thought and the vibration that produced those words, because it was the consciousness that they had that produced the outer form of the words and the philosophy. And so we try to do that, but more deeply, we try to tune in, especially in meditation. So outwardly, we have a picture of Master on the altar, and we have a smaller picture of Swamiji. Swamiji said publicly that he didn't want his picture to be on the altar as if he were one of the lines of gurus. But we as disciples, as devotees of him, naturally have a connection. And so we usually have a picture at a nearby, so that we can tune in. But more than that, it's not as if we're tuning into Swamiji, reading his words and having an aha moment that, oh, now I'm connected with Swamiji. Swamiji molded our life. You know, if he had been a mathematician and taught us mathematics, whenever we added a sum together, whenever we wrote a number, whenever we did anything involving mathematics, it would be because he molded our ability to do that. And so he so molded our life that he's constantly expressing himself through us. And I don't want to make it personal, because anyone who tunes in to the flow and tries to allow their consciousness to be shaped by the divine will then use that as a means of bringing light into the world. And so Swami is constantly with us. When we have a little moment of doubt or a need for help, we just pull back and we pray to Master or we pray to Swamiji. And very often, it's not like a voice comes and tells us, but a thought will come into the mind or a feeling will come into the heart, and we'll just know what direction we should take. So the relationship is deeper than anything outward. It's that it's almost like he has formed who we are, and being who we are, if we just express who we are, we can't help but express him because he has formed us.
That was very well put, Jyotish. I don't have a whole lot to add to that. As you mentioned, Gurupriya, we're working on some books now, and we don't want to say too much about them. We hope to be finished with them by August before we get ready to come to, first to our community in Assisi and then on to India. But it's really interesting for us working on them. We're each writing a separate book, because so often in this process, I'll think, oh, where's that quote? Which book is that from? And then I'll just go to the bookshelf and pick out the book, and there's the quote. And it's happened a number of times. There was one little book I was looking for in our bookshelf, and I couldn't find it. I thought, no, maybe we lent it, maybe whatever. And then I was picking out another book, and the book I was looking for had fallen behind that other book that I had pulled out. And it's just, I think it's something important for us all to understand and not to personalize it. That's the important thing, that to the extent we all allow ourselves to be molded by the guru, whether he's in the body or not, whether we ever met him or not, that it's just the ego saying, I can't do this on my own. I can't find God just by my own efforts. I can't. It's not, and that's the importance of the guru-disciple relationship, because nobody can do it on their own. The ego can't transcend the ego on its own, but the guru can. And so this is why it all comes back to the guru-disciple relationship. And the more we open ourselves up to that, the more the presence is tangibly guiding and helping us. And the more that happens, the more the ego begins to recede and just becomes kind of like this little quiet child watching from the sidelines and just saying, okay, Guru, you do it. I'll just do whatever you want. But I know it's not me doing it. So it's really quite a beautiful process, and it's open to everybody, whether you ever spend time in the physical presence of a saint or not. That really has very little to do with it. Master or Swami said, who is the closest to the Guru? It could be a name on the mailing list, someone that nobody knows. It's all about consciousness. So for those of us who are Master's children and who feel from Swamiji the draw, the magnetic pull towards the Guru, let's just all do our best now in this world of turbulence and perhaps oncoming chaos and suffering. We don't know, but we can be channels for the Guru through our discipleship, as Gurupriya and Alok have been talking about. So
we really deeply thank you both. You embody the teachings. It's beyond and deeper the words we exchange. It really is a vibration that is transmitted through your souls to everyone that is in the presence of that vibration. So we thank you for blessing our lives.
before you get off, I want to show you a painting that we have on the wall. It's a very lovely picture of Krishna that can be a little at an angle, but there's the painting of Jyotish's Divine Mother, and then we put right next to it this beautiful painting of Krishna that a beloved friend gave to us.
Someone
Thank-
who's on the screen now.
Thank you. Krishna traveled from Kolkata to that living room. That much we know.
And from the living room back to Kolkata right now.
Yeah, he was missing you.
Yeah,
He
see,
was
what he
missing you.
wanted.
We were at an exhibition, and that Krishna really, it was one of those moments that we felt like Krishna wanted to go to you, you know?
Yeah, it was
So-
an instant
Love
connection.
it.
We want,
Love it.
yeah.
We
No,
thank
Thank
you.
so much, Jyotish Devi ji. And I mean, really, we didn't have the blessing of meeting Swamiji or Master in the body, but really feel you are their living presence, their embodiment, and really such a blessing to just have you. Thank you so much.
May we all
Thank
be
you.
channels for God and Guru.
Yes.
Amen.
God bless you.
Our
Have a
pranams to
wonderful.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru.